Carp is an invasive fish that was brought to the United States about 50 years ago for aquaculture purposes, facilities. They were used to clean the bottom of the tanks of the aquaculture farms, and then whether they were accidentally released into the wild. The issue is that they made it into the wild, and because it's not a native species, they began to slowly take over the river systems in the U.S., especially in the Midwest, and compete for food sources with native species. They multiply very quickly. They're aggressive feeders, and little by little, they have become a big headache for the Mississippi River system.
Silver carp in particular have this behavior where they jump out of the water when they get irritated, and it appears that boat motor vibrations are one of these things that irritate them. And when they jump out of the water, they collide with the boat. They can collide with people in the boat, and there actually are cases where people have had broken noses, broken cheekbones, broken arms, concussions. They've been knocked out as a result of colliding with these jumping fish. So the way I usually liken it is, imagine that you're tooling around in your boat at 30-35 miles per hour, and a fish that's about the same mass as a bowling ball jumps out of the water and collides with your face. It's kind of the same thing.
So it's a fish that is being underutilized, is being harvested to be disposed of without any use. And that's when I came in and I thought, well, what can we do with that fish? Can we extract the proteins and try and make functional ingredients out of the proteins from this fish that nobody wants?
There are a couple of different lines that we've been looking at. One is to look at their movements, how they move in the river, where they move. We're trying to figure out where they're spawning, so that might be a strategy that we could use to control them. So in other words, if we can figure out a way to either keep them out of the spawning areas or to deter them from coming into the spawning areas, maybe they either won't spawn or they will not be as successful spawning if we can do that.
And we also started trying to use those protein hydrolysates, which is just rich protein sources, to fortify products or foods that are staple foods in developing countries where there is problems with malnutrition.
My lab has been working very closely with folks with the U.S. Geological Survey out of La Crosse, Wisconsin, and one of the possibilities is to use sound as a deterrent. So the idea there is that you pump. Well, there are a couple of different approaches. One is to use these big hydraulic guns that have been used in the past for seismic surveys out in the ocean. Essentially, it creates this enormous sound underwater that scares the fish. But there has also been some evidence to show that if you put other sounds in the water, use actual speakers to put sound in the water, that can have an effect on them as well.
It's considered a waste fish that is just being used for animal feed or ground for fertilizers, not for human consumption, even though it's quite nutritious and safe. So that's what's been rewarded, that we've actually found a positive spin or a positive application to a fish that, it's not being utilized.
I mean, admittedly, it's kind of cool to go out and boat around and have these fish jumping out all over the place, and to see that is kind of cool.